The notification sound on my phone used to make me smile. Now it makes my stomach turn. Every ping could be another message calling me trash, another comment on whatever video someone made about me this week, another reminder that I went from TikTok royalty to the internet's most hated woman in Miami. All because Steven couldn't just let things go like a normal person. My follower count dropped from 87,000 to 12,000 in 3 weeks. The remaining 12,000 only stick around to watch me fall apart, leaving comments like "Karma's beautiful" and "This is what you deserve" on every video I post. I haven't gone live in 2 months. The last time I tried, 400 people showed up just to spam train emojis in the chat until I ended the stream crying. But let me start from the beginning. Back when I was somebody. Back when people actually wanted to be in my presence, not just watch me burn. My name is Sandra, and a year ago I had everything figured out. I was 29, working as a social media manager for a boutique fitness studio in Brickell, and building my own following on TikTok. My thing was hosting these late-night panel discussions where people would join, and we'd talk about relationships, pop culture, whatever was trending. It sounds basic now, but I had this way of keeping conversations flowing, making everyone feel included, turning arguments into entertainment. People called me the Queen of Panels. That's how I met Steven. He went by the username Miami Maverick 95, which should have been my first red flag. Anybody who puts their city and birth year in their handle takes themselves way too seriously. But his jokes were perfectly timed, and he had this way of making fun of people without being mean about it. I noticed him because he wasn't desperately trying to get my attention like most guys. He'd drop a comment that would crack up the whole panel, then disappear for 20 minutes, letting other people have their moment. It was strategic, I realize now. He knew exactly how to play the game. After a few weeks of him showing up regularly, I started looking forward to seeing his name pop up in the viewer list. One night, after a particularly fun panel about dating horror stories, I sent him a DM. Just a simple, "Thanks for always bringing good energy to my lives," with a heart emoji. Basic, but it worked. He responded the next morning with something funny about how my panels were better than his usual late-night activity of arguing with strangers on Twitter. We started talking every day after that. First, just comments on each other's content, then DMs, then exchanging numbers. Within a month, we were FaceTiming every night after my panels ended. The thing about Steven that hooked me wasn't just that he was funny. It was that he seemed genuinely interested in my success. He'd watch my follower count grow and celebrate every milestone with me. When I hit 50,000, he sent me 50 roses to my apartment. When a brand reached out for my first sponsorship, he helped me negotiate a better rate. He made me feel like I was special, like what I was building actually mattered. We made it official after 2 months of talking. He lived in Fort Lauderdale, only 45 minutes up I-95, so seeing each other was easy. We agreed to keep the relationship off social media at first. I told him it was because I wanted to protect what we had from the craziness of TikTok drama. Really, I just liked having something that was just mine, separate from my online persona. For 7 months, things were perfect. Or at least they seemed perfect from his perspective. From mine, I was starting to feel trapped. See, when you're building something online, when you're watching your numbers grow and brands start noticing you, the attention becomes addictive. And Steven, sweet as he was, wanted all my attention for himself. He'd get pouty when I stayed on panels late. He'd make passive-aggressive comments when guys flirted in my comments, even though engaging with everyone was literally how I grew my following. He wanted me to mention him in my content, to make our relationship public, to basically announce to 80,000 people that I was taken. I kept putting him off, saying we agreed to keep it private, but really I just didn't want to limit my options. The Bachelorette party was for my friend Melissa. We'd known each other since high school, and when she asked me to be in her wedding party, I couldn't say no. The party was a weekend in South Beach, her last hurrah before marrying some boring accountant she'd been dating forever. I mentioned it casually during one of my panels. Someone asked what everyone's weekend plans were, and I said I had a bachelorette party to attend. No big deal, just making conversation. But Steven was in that panel, and afterward he texted asking why I hadn't told him about it. I was annoyed. We'd been dating 7 months, not 7 years. I didn't need to run every plan by him. I didn't know I needed to tell you everything that happens in my life, I texted back. Looking back, I can see how that sounded, but at the time I was just frustrated. He was always wanting to know where I was, who I was with, what I was doing. The TikTok thing was supposed to be fun and light, and he was making everything so heavy. The party started Friday afternoon. 12 girls, a suite at the Fontainebleau, and enough alcohol to fill a small pool. By Friday night, I was already over it. Melissa's friends from work were basic, talking about boyfriends and mortgage rates while I was trying to actually have fun. So when a group of guys in the hotel bar started buying us drinks, I was the first one to accept. They were in Miami for some crypto conference, all flash and no substance, but they were entertaining. One of them, Diego, kept finding excuses to talk to me. He had this Miami Vice aesthetic going on. White linen shirt, expensive watch, the whole deal. Cheesy, but after months of Steven's suburban stability, it was exciting. When he leaned in close to order another round, I could smell his cologne. Something expensive and obnoxious that probably cost more than my car payment. His hand brushed mine when he handed me the drink, and I felt that electricity I hadn't felt with Steven in months. Not because Steven wasn't attractive, he was in that boy-next-door way. But Diego was dangerous. He looked at me like I was prey, and after months of being worshipped by Steven, I wanted to be hunted. "You're different from these other girls," Diego said, gesturing at my friends. It was such an obvious line, but delivered with his slight accent and that predatory smile, it worked. "You have this energy, like you own every room you walk into." I should have laughed at him, should have seen the walking red flag in an expensive shirt. Instead, I leaned into it, into him. "Maybe I do," I said, letting my hand rest on his arm. His muscles tensed under my touch, and I thought about Steven's softer body, how he'd stopped going to the gym once we got comfortable. The psychological part of cheating starts way before the physical. It starts the moment you compare your partner to someone else and find them lacking. I'd been doing it for weeks, noticing how Steven wore the same 5 shirts in rotation, how he'd rather play video games than go to the new clubs in Wynwood, how he got weird when guys commented fire emojis on my posts. Diego was everything Steven wasn't. Aggressive where Steven was passive, flashy where Steven was simple, temporary where Steven was talking about our future. When the other girls went back to the room to drunk cry over Melissa's childhood photos, I stayed at the bar with Diego and his friends. 1 drink turned into 3, 3 turned into shots, and suddenly we were in the elevator going up to his room. I remember thinking, this doesn't count, because it was a bachelorette party, like Vegas rules applied to all of Miami Beach. I wish I could say I blacked out, that I don't remember what happened. But I do. I remember everything. The overpriced champagne from the minibar that Diego insisted on opening. The view of the ocean from his balcony where we stood too close, pretending to admire the moon. I remember him pushing my hair behind my ear. Such a cliché move, but my whole body responded to it. When he kissed me, I kissed back harder, trying to prove something. To him, to myself, to the universe that didn't care. The sex wasn't even good. That's the part nobody tells you about cheating. It was rushed and awkward, 2 drunk strangers trying to perform intimacy. Diego kept talking the whole time, saying things in broken Spanish that he probably thought sounded romantic but just made me think of Steven's silence when we made love. How he'd look at me like I was his whole world. But I pushed that thought away, focused on the wrongness of it, the thrill of destruction. Afterward, Diego rolled over and started scrolling through his phone, showing me crypto charts like I cared about Bitcoin futures while lying naked in his bed. That's when the ugliness of what I'd done started creeping in. Not guilt, exactly. That would come later. but this hollow feeling, like I'd eaten junk food when I was hungry for a real meal. "You should get going before your friends worry," he said without looking up from his phone. No offer to exchange numbers, no pretense this was anything more than what it was. I was just another conference hookup to him, another story to tell his bros back in Tampa or wherever. And somehow that made me feel powerful instead of pathetic. I'd blown up my relationship for someone who couldn't even pretend to care about me afterward. There was something liberating in the pure selfishness of it. I woke up at 5 a.m., in a room that wasn't mine, beside a man who definitely wasn't Steven. Diego was passed out, snoring like a chainsaw, and I was naked under sheets that probably cost more than my rent. The shame hit immediately, but not enough to stop me from taking a selfie in his bathroom mirror before I left. I looked good, messy in that carefully curated way. I almost posted it to my story before remembering Steven would see it. When I got back to our suite, most of the girls were still passed out. Only Melissa's cousin Natalie was awake, sitting on the balcony scrolling through her phone. She looked at me, then at my smudged makeup and tangled hair, and shook her head. "You're trash," she said quietly. "It's a bachelorette party," I shot back. "Mind your business." She kept staring at me with this disgusted expression. "Doesn't Steven follow you on Instagram? He seems like a good guy." That's when I realized she knew. Miami might be a big city, but our social circles were small. Natalie's boyfriend worked with Steven's cousin or something like that. They'd all met at some barbecue I'd skipped a few months back. "What happens in Miami stays in Miami," I said, trying to sound confident. "We'll see about that." I should have been worried about her threat, but I was too hungover and, honestly, too satisfied with myself to care. I'd had my fun, proven I still had it, and now I could go back to regular life. Steven would never know, and even if Natalie tried to say something, who'd believe her? I was Sandra, queen of panels. She was nobody. The rest of the weekend was awkward. Natalie kept shooting me looks during brunch, at the spa, during our boat day. But she didn't say anything else, and by Sunday night when I drove back to my apartment in Brickell, I'd convinced myself the whole thing would blow over. Steven texted asking how the party went. I sent him some photos the other girls had posted, all of us in matching Melissa's last sale shirts, doing shots at some beach bar, standard Bachelorette content. He sent back heart emojis and said he missed me. I felt a tiny bit guilty, but mostly I felt powerful. I'd gotten away with it. I had a secret that was mine alone, proof that I wasn't just somebody's girlfriend, wasn't just Sandra Lives Miami on TikTok. I was a woman who could do whatever she wanted and face no consequences. Looking back, I think that's what the cheating was really about. Not attraction to Diego, not problems with Steven, but this need to prove I was above the rules. All those months of building my following, of having hundreds of people hang on my every word during panels, of brands sliding into my DMs, it had convinced me I was special, untouchable, the kind of person who could rewrite reality just by being charming enough. That night, I went live like usual. 300 viewers, good energy, everyone laughing at my stories about the weekend. I kept it vague, talking about how wild bachelorette parties get without giving specifics. The panel was eating it up, asking for details, begging for the tea. I teased them, saying what happens at bachelorette parties stays at bachelorette parties, and they loved it. Steven was in the viewer list but wasn't participating. I figured he was just tired. He'd mentioned having an early morning. After I ended the live, I texted him goodnight. He read it but didn't respond. A little weird, but not alarming. Sometimes he fell asleep with his phone in his hand. The next morning, I woke up to 57 missed calls. My heart stopped. That many calls meant someone died or something equally horrible. But when I looked at who they were from, my mom, my sister, random TikTok mutuals, even Melissa, I knew it was something else. My hands were shaking as I opened Instagram first, saw the DM requests flooding in. Then TikTok, where my notifications were so blown up the app was lagging. The first video I clicked on made my blood run cold. It was Steven, live, with the title Story Time, How at Sandra Lives Miami Played Me at a Bachelorette Party. The live had ended hours ago, but someone screen recorded it. I watched in horror as Steven calmly, methodically dissected our entire relationship. He'd changed out of his usual casual clothes into a button-down, sitting in front of a ring light like he'd prepared for this moment. His voice was steady, calculated, like a prosecutor presenting evidence. "I want to be clear," he said to the camera. "I'm not doing this out of anger. I'm doing this because men need to know the signs, need to know what to watch for. And sometimes the best lessons come from the worst experiences." He started from the beginning. How I'd slid into his DMs first, how I'd love-bombed him with attention, how I'd insisted on keeping our relationship secret. But he twisted everything, made my desire for privacy sound calculating, made my compliments sound manipulative. He pulled up screenshots of our texts, highlighting messages out of context to paint a picture of me as some master manipulator who'd been playing him from day one. Then he got to the Bachelorette party. He explained how I hadn't told him about it, how I'd been dismissive when he asked. He said his gut told him something was wrong, and then he dropped the bomb. "Her friend's cousin," he said to the camera. "Good person, by the way. Thought I should know what my girlfriend was up to. She sent me a picture from the hotel and showed me exactly what kind of woman I was dealing with." He held up his phone to the camera. There I was, passed out in Diego's bed, clearly naked under the sheets with him right beside me. How? How did he get that? My blood ran cold as I remembered Natalie on the balcony. "You're trash." She'd seen me come in, but she must have known before that. She must have followed me, seen which room I went into. She must have waited. Maybe the door didn't close all the way. Maybe she caught me when I was leaving. All she needed was 1 second to snap a picture from the hallway. That's how she knew. Natalie didn't just take a photo, she collected evidence. The photo was slightly blurry but clear enough. My tattoo was visible, the butterfly on my ribcage that all my followers knew about because I'd shown it off in so many videos. The comments on the screen recording were brutal. "She belongs to the streets." "Legend exposed her perfectly." "This is why I have trust issues." "She really thought she was untouchable." I sat on my bed, phone shaking in my hands, watching my entire world collapse in real time. The video already had 200,000 views and climbing. People were sharing it across every platform, adding their own commentary, making memes. Someone had already edited the photo of me in bed into a template with "Miami Bachelorette Party" written across it. I tried calling Steven. His number was disconnected. I went to text him on Instagram, blocked. TikTok, blocked. Even his Cash app was closed to me. He'd erased me completely while making sure the entire internet knew exactly why. My panel that night was a disaster. I tried to go live like nothing happened, thinking I could control the narrative. Maybe say it was fake, that Steven was just bitter about something else. But the moment I started, the comments flooded in. Train emojis, eggplant emojis, every possible way to call me a cheater without saying it. People who'd been my regular viewers for months were dragging me in my own chat. I ended the live after 3 minutes and haven't been able to do a real one since. The thing about internet fame is that it disappears even faster than it comes. Within a week, every brand that had been interested in working with me pulled out. The fitness studio I worked for called me into a meeting saying my personal situation had become a distraction. They didn't fire me exactly, but they cut my hours so drastically that I had to quit. My TikTok engagement plummeted. Videos that used to get 100,000 views were barely breaking 1,000. But Steven became a hero. His follower count exploded from maybe 3,000 to over 200,000 in a matter of weeks. Guys were calling him King and the Blueprint for how to handle a cheater. He started his own podcast called Red Flag Reality, where he breaks down toxic relationship behaviors. Last I checked, he had brand deals with some men's grooming company and a workout supplement line. He hired a whole team, editors, social media managers, even a booking agent for speaking engagements. The cruel genius of his revenge was how perfectly orchestrated it was. He'd been planning it from the moment Natalie sent him that photo. While I was living my normal life, thinking I'd gotten away with it, he was documenting everything. He screenshotted every message where I sounded dismissive, recorded himself trying to call me that night while showing my active status on Instagram, even pulled up credit card records showing he'd bought those 50 roses when I hit my follower milestone. "This is what unconditional support looks like," he said in one video, showing receipts for all the gifts he'd bought me, all the times he'd promoted my content. "And this is how she repaid it." Cut to the photo of me in Diego's bed. He turned my humiliation into a business model. His entire brand is built on being the guy who exposed a cheater with receipts. He sells courses now. Detect and Deflect, a man's guide to avoiding toxic women, for $97. Uses my blurred out photos in his marketing materials. I'm literally the unnamed villain helping him make 6 figures. The cruel part is how calculated his revenge was. He could have just broken up with me, moved on, like a normal person. Instead, he waited for maximum impact. He knew that Friday night panels got the most viewers. He knew people would screen record it. He knew exactly how to destroy not just our relationship, but my entire online presence. I tried to rebuild for a while. Switched to Instagram, started a YouTube channel, even tried Twitter. But the internet doesn't forget. Every time I posted anything, someone would comment about the Bachelorette party. My DMs were full of guys thinking I was easy, girls calling me names, people sending that photo over and over like I might have forgotten what I looked like that night. Diego never contacted me after that weekend. I looked him up once. Turned out he was married with kids in Tampa. The whole crypto conference story? A lie. Just another line from another liar. Even my bad decision was built on lies. I moved out of my Brickell apartment 2 months ago. Couldn't afford it anymore without the social media manager job and the brand deals I'd been counting on. Now, I'm in a studio in Kendall, working at a call center for a medical billing company. 40 hours a week of getting yelled at by people about insurance claims. My coworkers have no idea who I used to be online, and I keep it that way. Sometimes at night I scroll through TikTok on a fake account, watching other girls host panels, build their followers, make the same content I used to make. Some of them even use my old format, my catchphrases, building their platforms on the foundation I created. They're careful, though. They've learned from my mistake. They keep their relationships public, their images clean, their bachelorette parties off social media. Steven's doing great, from what I can see. He's got a new girlfriend now, some nurse who seems sweet and normal and nothing like me. She's in his content sometimes, laughing at his jokes, supporting his podcast. The comments love her, say she's an upgrade, that he finally found a good one. He never mentions me directly anymore, but his whole brand is built on being the guy who exposed a cheater. I'm the unnamed villain in his success story. My family barely talks to me. My mom saw the video. One of her church friends sent it to her. She didn't yell or lecture me. She just said she was disappointed and changed the subject. My sister still texts sometimes, but it's different now. She used to ask for social media advice, looked up to me for building something online. Now she asks if I need money, if I'm eating enough, like I'm some charity case. The worst part is the randomness of it all. I'll be at Target buying groceries and someone will recognize me. Their eyes go wide. They'll whisper to their friend. Sometimes they'll not so secretly take a photo. I'm not famous anymore, but I'm infamous. The girl who got exposed at the Bachelorette party. The one who thought she could have her cake and eat it too. I've thought about apologizing publicly, making some kind of statement video. But what would I even say? That I was drunk? That it didn't mean anything? That I was feeling trapped in the relationship? Every excuse sounds worse than the last. The truth, that I was selfish and thought I could get away with it, is too simple and too damning. 3 of the girls from the Bachelorette party reached out after everything happened. Not to support me, but to complain that I'd ruined Melissa's wedding memories. Every time she looks at her Bachelorette photos, she has to remember how one of her bridesmaids became internet infamous for cheating. She uninvited me from the wedding, said it would be too much drama, that Steven's video would overshadow her day. I couldn't even argue. Natalie, the cousin who took the photo, posted her own TikTok about the situation. She didn't show her face, just told the story over a black screen. 2 million views. She painted herself as some moral hero, protecting Steven from a narcissistic cheater. People praised her in the comments for doing the right thing. She gained 30,000 followers off my downfall. I tried therapy for a few weeks. The therapist kept asking me to explore why I made the choices I did, what I was looking for that Steven wasn't providing. But I couldn't give her the deep answer she wanted. The truth was superficial. I was bored, Diego was hot, and I thought I was untouchable. There's no childhood trauma there, no profound reason, just selfishness dressed up in a party dress. Some nights I dream about that moment differently. In the dream, I leave the bar alone, go back to the suite, wake up the next morning with nothing to hide. Steven never finds out because there's nothing to find out. We either work through our issues or break up normally, like adults. I keep my career, my followers, my reputation. I learn from the close call without paying the price. But that's not what happened. What happened is that I traded 7 months of real relationship and a promising career for one night with a married stranger who probably doesn't even remember my name. I became a cautionary tale, a meme, a reminder to every woman in Miami that the internet is always watching, and your boyfriend's friends might be too. The notification sound on my phone just went off. It's probably spam or a work email, but my heart still races every time, still expects it to be another message about that night, another person who just discovered the video, another reminder that some mistakes follow you forever. I don't make content anymore. Don't go live, don't build community. I just exist in this studio apartment with my medical billing job and my ruined reputation, watching other people live the life I threw away for nothing. I don't even blame Steven for exposing me. Not really. He knew exactly what would hurt the most. Taking away the one thing I valued more than him. The attention, the platform, the illusion that I was special. Now I'm just Sandra from Kendall, nobody special at all. And that's probably what I always was underneath the ring lights and follower counts. Just another woman who thought she was too important to face consequences, right up until the moment she wasn't.